Lebek and the Rabbi from another planet. Please like, share, and subscribe, and ring the little bell so you're notified when new videos drop. So it is Friday. It's time to once again crack open the video vault. And this movie that we're dealing with today is in my top 5 movies of all time. This is a bit of a different view of it. And I'm gonna after I introduce the panel, I'm gonna make an admission that I think I might have made a mistake. But first, I'm gonna introduce you all to the panel. We're gonna start off with from one man of the cloth to the other, Father Christopher Miller, the Nerd Father. How are you? Good.
I'm doing good. It's good to be back from vacation.
Yes, I was gonna say, but we're back from sunny Boston, right?
No, Jersey Shore.
Jersey Shore, same thing. We're not going to see you on any like salacious documentaries, are we? No, really? Because I would pay money to see that.
Not in Jersey.
That would be freaking awesome. Yeah, if you were cross over the Jersey Shore, that's a machine to print money, I would say. Fine, so no problem there. But we do have one problem. We have a problem being who is joining us in the streams like. Good night, good afternoon. How are you? Problem being,
I am very well, very warm.
I understand that. You see, the English are not used to hot weather. What we do in Israel is we have air conditioning, and I never go outside if I can avoid it. I always wondered. I'm going to just take the opportunity to ask now. Who is in your icon? Is that Beethoven?
It's me.
Is that you?
It's actually me.
Wow, it looks like an oldie one. Oh, there you go. Well, it's you crossed with a candle flame. Fine, okay. So that's another mystery solved, but another one I think created right there. Next up in our pantheon greatness to talk about this movie tonight, which is of course Star Wars. We need a bit of royalty. We need royalty to really dissect this movie. And one of the only lines I really liked in The Force Awakens is "You've always been royalty to me." Who has always been royalty to me? It is of course Birmingham's own King of the Geeks, Dan Hadley from the Time 40 Podcast and Spacebook. How are you? Good afternoon. Good evening.
I'm fantastic. Melting a little, but let's blow this thing and go home. Ooh, that actually
wrong movie, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't like the look at this.
I'm thinking of Demolition Man, where they go, "Let's go blow this guy," and she's like, "No, go blow him away."
Yes. Evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Let's have some to
Good evening, everybody. No panel is discussing Star Wars is ever complete without a geek. And I didn't want to get any old geek. I didn't want to get a minor geek. I didn't want to get a petite geek. I wanted to get a mega geek. And a mega geek is indeed what we have. Mega geek, how are you?
I'm okay. Everybody's happy.
Really, after that build up, you should be tingling.
I am.
So good. Don't touch it. You will go blind. That's just my rabbinical advice to you.
Too late.
And finally, last but in no means least, live from Dublin, we have the one, the only Noel from the Tardis zone. How are you, Noel? Good evening. Good afternoon.
How are you guys? Hey, Rabbi. How's things?
Hello. How are you?
I'm good. And how is everybody else? Everybody warm, yeah?
Yeah.
Too warm.
My sweat is sweating.
Do you know what? We actually have a little bit of sun in Dublin as well, so I know how you feel. I wish it was cold.
See, that's a real heat wave. When you get sun in Dublin, that's the sign of the apocalypse. There you go.
Hey, so I grew up in Iowa. I don't know if you heard the news about Iowa yesterday, but they got hit with that hurricane.
Oh, really?
Wow.
100-mile-hour winds.
Wow.
Okay. Is everybody okay?
My sister lost part of her roof. My dad's corn has been flattened. Towns are without power for 2 days.
Wow. Okay.
It's pretty bad. So not only is it hot, it was really windy.
That everybody's going to have power again, and everybody's going to be on the way to getting better. So you know what's good to take your mind off a major catastrophe like your house being blown away. Yeah, revisiting an old classic. Now I said at the beginning I have an admission to make here. I think I might have made a mistake, because the great thing about Video Vault is I go through movies that I know that I love, but I haven't necessarily seen in a while. And Star Wars is a movie that we've all seen, and I think we all know intrinsically well. But I haven't sat down and watched it for a while, and I try and watch things with a new eye. Now, that would have been great, but I prepared this special cut of Star Wars, which I thought only I was going to see. I forgot I was going to share it with anyone, and there's a couple of small mistakes. Now, I repeated a couple of scenes, so I was watching, I'm like, oh no. But the biggest mistake was this. My overwhelming impressions, I tried to go into it fresh, imagining what it would be like in 1977, trying to know culturally where we are. And I see why it was such a massive hit. It was an incredible fusion of very, very old school, very simplistic, very childish science fiction fare. Flash Gordon, the Republic serials, that kind of film, but told in an extremely contemporary, extremely realistic way, with a level of realism I don't think that had really been seen in science fiction ever at the time. I was looking at C3PO and thinking, that looks like a real robot. So that was fantastic. So I'm looking at this thing, and all the lore is stripped away, and yeah, it's really a lot fresher if you do that. But I did my special cut of it, which really ties in quite a lot to the prequel trilogy, the sequel trilogy, not the sequel trilogy. So, please forget I said that. I may even edit that line out if I can't be bothered. But I don't think it's even worth that trouble to edit it out. It ties very much in the prequel trilogy, and so then it like just loaded all that lore back onto it again. So I'm not sure if that was the best plan or not. But it was up until that point, I think was really the lightsaber fight. It was a really kind of very, very fresh experience. So let's get into this movie, and we start off. Let me find the opening crawl with one of the I was going to say one of the most iconic shots, but every shot is one of the most iconic shots, which is what this movie was. So we open up. There is we have the incredible opening crawl, which I believe might have been Martin Scorsese's idea. It was originally conceived without that opening crawl. And he showed the rushes to like Scorsese and like Francis Coppola, and like all these contemporaries at the time. And I think of Scorsese said, "Well, nobody knows what's going on," so he added in that crawl at the beginning, which was again just a wonderful nod to those Republic series, those Flash.
That's not true.
No, it's not true.
No,
Okay,
it's not true. It's not. Well, basically, you can see they had the idea for the crawl in the storyboards before they even shot the movie. So. How could that be true? You know what I mean? So there you go.
Wow. I half expected the Rabbi cut to lose the episode tag completely.
Me too. I have to admit, I am a Star Wars purist. I never call it A New Hope. I call it Star Wars. That's what it is. That's how it should be.
Yeah. I mean, I think if I was next time I revisit this movie, it's gonna be the despecialized edition, because again, it's so when you go into it without all that lore that you built up with all your life, it's so refreshing. It's just you get like space wizards and like evil robot men, and what like who the hell are the stormtroopers robots? Is Darth Vader the king robot? You really don't know what the hell's going on. And it doesn't actually. One of the things I really enjoyed was the Marvel Star Wars comic from the time, because when they stopped adapting the movie in issue like 3 or 4, they just went off in this like completely wacky direction of like stuff that was just completely forgotten. But again, it had that real freshness to it. So anyway, so we have this opening attack where this seemingly normal sized spaceship is attacked by this massive spaceship, and they're boarded, and the sinister Darth Vader appears, throttling someone. 2 robots escape C3PO and R2D2 after getting a disc from Princess Leia, although we don't know who she is at the time, and they end up on Tatooine. I think that's a good place to. And they end up Tatooine, and they go their separate ways. I was going to say, and then they end up with the Jawas. We know the Jawas. I actually kind of prefer the Jawas in the Mandalorian right now from the ones they saw today, but they were very similar. and they basically end up by that's how they end up by Luke Skywalker in something that's obviously very clearly fated. Had you seen the other 5 movies? But okay, so let's talk about that first. That opening 15-20 minutes. Father Miller, why did you take it? What were your thoughts and impressions?
I can't remember the first time I ever saw Star Wars. I know it was when I was a kid. I just wish I could go back to have never seen it before, to be able to experience it for the first time, not knowing anything. And I just, I mean, is this the 4K scan?
No, I don't know.
Okay, because I just thought it looked really good.
Yeah, no, I specifically wanted this particular cut because the sound is minutely out of sync in some sections, which just matched my memory of it. So what it makes like me go, oh yeah, that sounds about right. So that it's why I think that a lot of it's from the despecialized edition.
No, this is one of my favorite movies. It doesn't matter how many times I've seen it. I just enjoy it every time it comes on. And for some reason, this one, the graphics looked a lot sharper, and it just was beautiful.
Great.
Been rescanned. It's definitely been rescanned. For the special edition cut, of course. But yeah.
Problem being, do you want to go next?
Yeah. I mean, it's. I hate using the word because it's used by just about every YouTuber going, apart from obviously the current wonderful mob. Iconic. It speaks to the architect again. This is a film loaded with tropes from archetypal characters and situations, and it's so light and dark. So you're never really lost on whose side you're on or anything. There's no ambiguity. And I think the striking elements of this film were so breathtakingly groundbreaking. When I finished watching it, I kind of thought I was so emotional at the end of it because it made me think how wonderful it must have been to have seen this at the cinema when it came out. And I didn't. I first saw this when I was a kid, and it came on Easter time, I think in 80 or 81 in the UK on TV. So it would have been the TV cut, probably on ITV.
Oh wow.
It was a little later. It was around 83, actually.
Was it? Okay, so it was, quite late.
I have to tell you, I still distinctly remember my father showing me the tickets. We went to see it in Leicester Square, and I was like crazed to see it. And I'm like, my reading, I was young, my reading was not great. So he made me read the tickets. I was like, stop! And I still remember it. It was like a massive part of my life. Seeing it in the cinema was incredible.
It did make me think how people would have cheered like crazy at the end of this. I can imagine that would have been the natural response to seeing something so visually strong and with such a strong story, such a strong bunch of characters. I mean, how you don't instantly fall in love with R2-D2 and C-3PO when you come across these robots. And how it sort of just organically sways through the whole film, and you're sort of swept up into these worlds. Like it's magic. It's just pure magic. It can't help but transport you, and it's just wonderful. I mean, I don't know the various cuts that you use. I couldn't really tell from which ones they came from. I mean, I think there's quite a fair bit of the despecialized versions in there. But yeah, some of it, the sound was a bit difficult to actually hear. It seemed quite like it was mono, quite muffled in some places. So I was struggling to hear what it was saying. But yeah, I mean, I recently watched the despecialized version just a few months ago, and it was so reminiscent. It really did transport me back to seeing it as I had originally seen it, and it was a transportation. It was like I hadn't seen it before, and it was magic again. And that kind of this version you sent across to us was quite reminiscent of that as well. So by the end of it, I was feeling quite emotional, and also quite angry actually at how it's sort of been debased by the current era. And it's what a shame.
Let's be clear. Star Wars, like every other beloved fandom, has taken a big steaming dump on their chest from the younger generation. You know, if you're into that kind of thing, I'm not casting aspersions, but most people are. Most people are not into that. Yeah, that is true. That is true. Dan, Problem, do you have anything you'd like to add? Or
no, I think that's my opening gambit. Yeah.
Dan, what are your thoughts?
Well, fun enough, I mean, from just what Problem Being was saying there, it's just reminded me of something I heard last year. It was a YouTube video or a podcast or something, and somebody's opening gambit, their tagline was why they should never have made another one of these movies.
You know what? I was thinking that. It's like, this was a great standalone movie.
Yeah.
And I recoiled, as I suspect many people would, at reading that, and I hit play on whatever that was, with great reluctance and with my arms folded. And then as the conversation rolled out, I found myself almost agreeing with them as somebody who loves The Empire Strikes Back in particular, and all the rest of it. But yes, because the simple fact is, as an isolated piece of entertainment, this is how can one of the most famous films in the history of cinema still be at a place, or have got to a place, where, if anything, it's kind of underrated. This film is so special, so magical, beautifully considered and balanced. 2 hours watching this, and to be honest, whichever version, 2 hours watching this is never 2 hours wasted of your life. There's almost always something extra to see somewhere along there. That opening scene there, Rabbi, that first shot with the large spaceship and the smaller one, that I must have seen that. I don't know. I don't want to exaggerate. Hundreds of times in action, almost certainly, and it still takes my breath away. And maybe that's because home entertainment is also evolving as the years go on. So every time it's remastered, they make sure this still looks the dog's bollocks.
I don't think that's the reason it blows you away.
The thing is slightly spoiled for me now, though, because when I see this, I can't help but think of Spaceballs. Thanks, Mel Brooks. It's you again.
This don't take me back there. This picture, though, and the sense of scale. And I think and although this is the most famous example, the most dramatic example, I think scale is another thing that this film gets absolutely right. That the storytelling gets right. We could the special effects and the things that people always mention, quite rightly so. But the sense of scale, the sense of pace, all those quintessentials, fundamentals. I'm sure the Mega Geek's going to chip in here with his real filmmaker's cap on. But it's all tight, so tight. And this is I hadn't planned on watching this film at all for a considerable time yet, Rabbi. The last time I watched any Star Wars at all was Rise of Skywalker several months ago. I wanted some space in between, but I've watched it again, and somehow time has sort of washed all that away, and this is still sitting there somehow as a jewel in a crown, and it has a life of its own, away from the trappings of franchise and away from the legend of George Lucas. I think it belongs to us, and maybe our generation. I don't know, perhaps.
And this scene here that you're showing, Rabbi, actually made me tear up because it was so powerful. That swirling music as well.
Yeah, and that
John Williams music. Oh my god!
You could describe this movie as the most bonkers 3 days of Luke Skywalker's left young life. Like, he goes longing for adventure. All of a sudden, 3 days later, he's getting a freaking medal from a space pirate who has to be the coolest man in the entire freaking universe, and a giant dog monster. Okay.
It is like a great big episode of Jim will Fix It, isn't it? Oh, shit.
Evaporators. Fine, Mega Geek. Let's bring you in. What are your thoughts, my friend?
Well, the first time I saw it in the cinema. And I think I'm slightly older than you, Rabbi, I think.
Yeah.
And it would have been Well, I saw it in the Dominion when the Dominion was a cinema. Now, well, it's a theater. I think it doesn't exist anymore. But the Dominion, which is, I know you probably saw it in Leicester Square, but I saw it in Dominion. And I remember my brother saying, "Do you want to come and see Star Wars?" And he showed me the poster, and I thought it was a musical because it looked like a musical, right? So he goes, "Come and see Star Wars." So when we got there, the queue was right around. It was a really incredibly long queue. And I kid you not, they had policemen on horseback to keep the audience back off the road on the pavement. Wow. And so we waited for 2 hours. And I was like, bollocks, what's this film going to... I'm waiting for 2 hours just to watch this musical. So I get in there. At first, the first thing that struck me was how big the screen was before the film had started. The second thing that struck me was how the sound was so very different to the flea pits that I used to go to watch movies. So you had the Dolby sound, which was like all around you. And then you had this massive ship that came over your head, because where we're sitting in the middle. It just seemed like it came over your head. And you know, everybody was enthralled in the cinema and people were cheering and, you know, my thoughts of this movie was that it was groundbreaking. Even when I was watching it, it was ground. And I was in my teen. I think I was in my teens, early teens when I saw this film.
I mean, honestly, it's so obviously groundbreaking. I'm actually kind of amazed that people were incredibly sure this was going to change the world.
Yeah.
Well, and like you know, who's it? Half what's the toy company? Paulson?
Yes. No, it wasn't Mattel. I can't remember.
People were passing on it, weren't they? People were passing on it without even having seen.
Yeah.
George Lucas became as rich as he did because none of the people around merchandise would touch the bloody thing.
Well, he asked them, "Can I have the merchandise?" And they laughed in his face, said, "Yeah, you can have it."
And isn't it true as well that it was Mark Hamill's the only actor who wanted to be paid? Because the other actors were offered shares, and they were offered shares in the merchandising as well. And Mark Hamill's just said, "I wanted to be paid up front," and he missed out. And they got loads of money from the merchandising and the shares in the film, and he didn't. So he became.
I don't know if that's true. But, well, George Lucas, when he realized how much money it was making, he literally gave them more money. He gave all the main stars more money because the only person that agreed to, well, as far as I know, I don't know if this is true, but the only person that agreed to take money from the merchandise was Alec Guinness. Alec Guinness was like, "Fine, I can take some money."
He definitely is.
Professional. Of course, I'm going to take the money you're offering me. Why wouldn't I?
But Alec Guinness was the only one that really believed in the film. Everybody else, I mean, Harrison Ford didn't believe any word that he was saying from the script. He thought the film was awful. And George Lucas, right, was so, he didn't know how to direct actors. In fact, some would say he doesn't know how to direct actors now. But the actors used to take the piss out of him. In fact, if you look at the making of very carefully, he would only say 3 words to them. And after the cut, they would take the piss out of George Lucas. So he was up against it. And they ran out of money and he had to get extra money and stuff. You know, it was a hard slog for the man. And the only thing he could do after the film had finished is run away to Hawaii, where he met Steven Spielberg in the beach. And they were both in the same situation. Yeah, they were both in the same situation, thinking their films were going to flop. Yeah, but it didn't, did it? So, and that's when they came up with Raiders of the Lost Ark. That's when, you know, I think George asked Steven, if there was any film you could direct in the world, which film would you direct? And he went, James Bond. And then George Lucas said, "I've got something better than James Bond." And then that's how Indiana Jones started.
Yeah, because both of them are basically doing those Republic series. I have to say, this has got to be unquestionably George Lucas' best movie, right?
Yeah.
I thought Willow was all right. Willow. Was that?
Like we did this THX 1148, which I quite like. American Graffiti.
American Graffiti is great.
Howard the Duck.
Prequels, right?
Howard the Duck? Yeah, Howard the Duck, man.
Yeah, okay, fine. This one wins. No. What are your opening thoughts on Star Wars, especially this cut of Star Wars?
Well, considering I'm not per se a Star Wars fan like you yourselves, I actually found this cut more enjoyable than the versions that I've seen, whether it's the original or the re-edited George Lucas. version. As I was saying off air, the Vader scene for me has always been a disappointment, but in this version, it's completely it's so much more elevated. It's brilliant. Look, I agree with everybody on the panel. I wasn't born, obviously, when this movie was out. I would have loved him to be around at the time.
Had to get that one in.
Someone did say, the audience, there is actually footage that someone put up on YouTube. Someone brought in a video, a camcorder back in the day, and actually recorded the crowd's reaction during the original Star Wars movie. So that's on YouTube. There's actually a whole thing where the audience reacts on YouTube. Back in the day when the movie was released, and you hear them all cheering and stuff.
Nice.
Listen, I'm on the track.
That sounds very
cool. But this cut of the movie, I'm not going to say it's made me a Star Wars fan, but I appreciate it a little bit better. To be honest with you, it's look. I'm still not a Star Wars fan. Never will be. Prefer me sci-fi, more sophisticated. To be honest with you, but this cut was much better. So that's my opinion on it. Because I'm not a Star Wars fan, so don't know the lore. I'm not going to get into huge details because I don't really give a crap. To be honest.
Do you know what I find? Do you know what I find really puzzling as well? There was no company that did visual effects. So George Lucas had to create his own company. Yeah, that's crazy, right? When you think about it.
I know. Yeah. Look, Lucas is a genius. And he's also an asshole. So, like,
I think a lot of people call him a hack. And like he was lucky with this.
Well, listen, he was. No, let's not kid. George Lucas
is a big thing.
I'm sorry, George Lucas is not a great filmmaker. He's not. He got lucky with these 3 movies, and that's it. They've been his best hits.
Honestly, he got lucky with this movie.
He hasn't made out
with this movie.
I think he had a vision, and I think he was fortunate enough to have picked the right people to be around.
Absolutely.
From people like Carrie Fisher whispering in his ear, being that middle woman between him and the rest of the cast, and obviously the people who are doing the editing and all that sort of thing.
Is that you?
That's me and my son. We're in. Oh, he's like 10 years old now.
Oh wow!
There you go.
Now I'm thinking of Spaceballs again.
Jesus, Rabbi, that's fantastic.
That's wonderful.
Did you not rob the droids? No.
I don't know how I did it. There was a museum. It's called a Movieum. It was in central London, where they got the London Eye, and they had like all these Star Wars stuff. So I somehow talked them into letting me and my son go in there and take pictures inside the set they set up. Wow. I can't remember how I talked them into it. But I'm very glad.
I believe that you can talk pretty much anybody into anything.
Let me in.
These are the rabbi and child that you're looking for.
There's certainly a superpower I would like to have.
Again, I'll agree with everybody on the panel. This movie visually is absolutely stunning. That opening scene does suck you in, actually. I was mesmerized by it. Listen, again, there's just something about this version, and I know you've said yourself you made a few editing mistakes, but to me that doesn't matter. This movie was a far superior movie than the movie that
the thing is, we know it so well, and so when it's like a little bit different, it's good. But we'll talk about that lightsaber scene when we get to it. Because right now we're about at the point of the movie where we're introduced to Han Solo. We go to Mos Eisley. You'll never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy. Now, again, I kind of prefer the new special effects Mos Eisley to the original. So I got those bits in, and then you go to the canteen. And then Cantina again. One of the most iconic scenes in modern filmmaking, even with a bit of Doctor Who leftover costumes in the background, which they use also used a lot in Empire Strikes Back. So we have the cantina. He meets Han Solo, the coolest man in the whole universe, and Han Solo is on the run from Jabba the Hutt, and then his Jabba's.
You got the crispy bacon auntie and uncle.
Oh yes, I
Yeah.
forgot the as well.
What's the story? You're supposed to be keeping on top of this stuff. Come on, do your job properly. That scene, though, I have to be honest. Can I just say something about that scene? That scene, even as a kid, I remember watching that scene as a kid, and when Luke finds he's obviously his aunt and Luke are born to a Christmas, that always scared the shit out of me, and I always said, "Oh my God, put up Christmas! You can bite our bones."
Wicked grandfather Christopher Miller.
For God's sake. Are you for real? Is that a real thing, or is that a fan?
No, it's not real.
No,
It's not real.
It's not real. So don't voice Star Wars.
Get him now.
Did anyone collect the toys?
Yeah.
I did. Toys?
I
so
did.
Yeah, I did. I lost
loads and loads. I had like at least half, if not more.
Do you know what, guys? I went to see Empire Strikes Back
so
recently for my birthday, and do you know what? It still holds up as a cinematic experience.
Of course it does. Because look, I'm not a Star Wars fan, as I said, but I can appreciate good movies. Look at that, even that picture. I mean, look at it. Look, the aliens in it, some of them annoy me, but the imagination back in the 70s to do something like this, I can even appreciate that this would have been. The only thing I was actually saying this is Gerald, though. There's no way, and I know he has said on countless, and even the cast have said that they didn't know that this was going to be a hit. Bullshit. When they were in that room, I'm sorry.
But can I counter that? I need to counter that because I was at
the room and they got the final edit of that movie, and he sat down and watched that. George Lucas creamed his pants. He knew that he had a hit on his hands. I'm sorry.
He didn't.
Yeah, but listen. I was a film extra on the Star Wars Solo movie, and we had a scene very similar to this, with all the like a bar with all the crazy aliens and people in crazy costumes and animatronics and all sorts. And when you're sat there in the middle of that, you think this is going to be great, and it didn't happen. It didn't happen.
When Phoebe Waller, whatever her name is, walks on in a blue leotard, you go, "Oh right, no, it's not."
Yeah. But none of them thought this film was going to make any money at all. Everyone, from special effects guys to the actors, they didn't think this film was going to make any money whatsoever, and that's why George Lucas ran away. He ran away from, I think it was from the premiere. He ran away and went to Hawaii.
Scared of something new. People never think something new will succeed.
Yeah, but the thing is, though, it captured the audience imagination. I mean, let's face it, right? Everything in that film you can make a toy out of. Do you know what I mean?
Right,
they did.
Quite literally every moment, every scene. I'm just looking at that picture there, and that was probably the scene last week in the video vault when the Rabbi locked us in last week to watch.
Exactly.
Watch High Rise. That's what we all looked like watching High Rise last week. I mean, this is the thing.
That's the Rabbi.
It's like Thriller, isn't it?
How can there still be pictures from this film that I've never seen before?
Because they just keep restored. That's the best thing about this movie, though. And I have to even admit, again, not a traditional Star Wars fan, these movies keep on giving. The original trilogy, they just keep giving and giving and giving. The one thing that annoys me is Lucas start messing with them. He should never have messed with them.
Not only did he mess with them, he messed with them in the most destructive way possible by going back and re-editing the original film, and basically destroying all the copies, like all the masters, by putting all the effects directly onto the or using the original footage, which is so irresponsible. As anyone who loves film must roll their eyes at the thought.
I don't mind seeing there's a couple of reasons why I don't mind most of the new special effects. I feel like I'm seeing the artists.
I find them very distracting.
It was
my only sadness watching, because obviously this is the Rabbi cut that we've been treated to, and I was watching this and enjoying it, but the only sadness sort of niggling away at me, Rabbi, was the fact that because they've changed it so much, they have changed it so much. I couldn't remember what there were certain scenes in particular, the scenes with R2D2 and the Jawas. I was thinking, have I seen that? I've lost track of what changed when, and so I don't think I mean, obviously this thing, the Rabbi's cut, the novelty of that. I'm so used to seeing it change that I don't know really what some parts of the original version looks like anymore. That's sad.
That's why the despecialized version is such a refreshing take again, because it did away with all of this. It's clearly done by people.
I think George Lucas got the original at home, and there's no way a creative person like him would destroy the original.
I think he suffers from not knowing.
I'm telling you, he's got the original at home.
I don't think he knows that he's got to stop at some point. I think it's one of those people who is never satisfied.
That was the thing. Nobody told him, George, listen, you're going too far. The movies are changing the movie. You're changing the movies. You need to stop. But nobody told him that. So, like, I mean, look, at the end of the day, I do agree with Ian, though. It would be, I'd be very hard pressed to think that he doesn't have a copy.
Exactly.
Well,
because he would irresponsible. That would be George Lucas. That would be highly irresponsible if he's got that locked away somewhere, because he knows that movie is valuable now. He probably knows that he's ruined those movies, but he has the original there to keep it there. That's worth a few quid now.
I wouldn't be surprised if he's scanned the original film, has it on whatever K, 8K or 9K, whatever, and he's got it in the vault. He's because he literally took all the old film to make the special edition with extra visual effects. So it went through a whole process. There's no way you can tell me that billionaire is not going to do the same with the original. He's got the original. It's there somewhere.
Bear in mind, every time they put a new box set out on whatever format it is, they always find new bits. Both they exist. Of course, the bloody original film.
It's got more bloody takes, more cuts than the bloody Blade Runner.
I know, it's ridiculous.
It's an urban myth.
But you know, with George Lucas, right? He owns
Star Wars.
He literally owns Star Wars, right? So it belongs to him. It's not that Hollywood owns it, like Blade Runner. They had to fight to get Blade Runner, the 5 versions they put out of Blade Runner, because the studio owns it, or whoever owns it. But George Lucas owns Star Wars. You know, there's no way. There's no way this man doesn't have the original. No. That's Disney Star Wars.
Okay.
He owns all the prints, the original prints and the recuts. Yeah. There's no way he's not going to fix the original. I'm telling you, that man's got it in his vault somewhere. I'm telling you, it's not that stupid.
Like I said,
he'll probably release it. He'd probably say, release it on me debt.
Probably, probably. I wouldn't be surprised.
A bit weird, but that's what he'd probably do. Release it on me debt. Because if you are right, if you ran off because he didn't think that this movie was a success, then that's fine, fair enough. Then I didn't know that. But Jesus Christ, George, if I was even sitting there myself, I'd know by looking at this was going to be a fucking hit. There was no way this wasn't going to be not a hit.
I give an example, right, of why I think that is so, right? You know the comedian Jerry Lewis?
Yeah.
He made a film, right? And he was basically he was a clown in Auschwitz. He made this film, and he was a comedian. At the time, he made this really serious film, right? And it's never been shown. It's never been shown.
There's a reason.
It's never been shown. But I tell you, one day, when that man dies, that film is going to be shown. It's going to be shown. And I'll tell you one thing, George Lucas has the original cut of Star Wars in 12K.
Jerry Lewis has been dead for 3 years now.
No, I'm saying whoever owns that film, because there's no way.
But I'm saying that the fact that Jerry Lewis has been dead and the day the clown cried has not come out yet.
I know, but it will. I'm telling you, it will. Somehow they're going to put it out.
There'll be some relative somewhere who wants to make a
That's right. That's right. Always is. Always is. And when George Lucas passes, there'll be somebody who says, "I've got the original cut," and it's in 50K. So
this is creeping up now, isn't it? 8K, 12K, 50K.
No one has any respect.
Technology, man. Technology is crazy.
I'll be in virtual reality. I'll be in VR next.
We want the film grain. We want the film grain. That's the important thing.
VR experience of watching it in 1977 in a cinema. That's the VR I would like to see. So, anyways, okay, fine. They meet up with Han Solo and Chewbacca. They get reported by Gonzo, apparently. That they're in, and they blast out of Mos Eisley in a thrilling space battle. And then we cut to the Death Star, and they've arrived at Alderaan, haven't they, by this point? And
it's been destroyed by the Death Star.
No, first we see the Death Star destroy Alderaan. On the Death Star, on the Millennium Falcon, Luke Skywalker has received less Jedi training than Rey did in The Last Jedi, but he's doing pretty good with it. He's doing pretty good with it, and you know, things going on, and they get they work the Alderaan's gone when they arrive there, and there's a lone TIE fighter which they're trying to take out before they report back where he is, and he's trying to make it that moon, and then they say that's no moon, that's a space station. Fine. Yeah. So we are on the Death Star. Let's talk about it up to this point, like from Mos Eisley to the Death Star.
Well, the clear thing you're missing here is the scene that was originally played by an actor, wasn't it? Of
Jabba.
Jabba.
Yeah.
And they later CGI'd in this character in retrospect because they didn't know how he was going to be, because originally it was played by a man, wasn't it?
Yeah, Irish guy.
Oh, we're talking about but
I met that guy.
Rabbi cut, that's not in it. I took that out.
Yeah.
No, that wasn't in the original.
No, it wasn't in the original. It was cut out.
Jabba was not in the original.
It was going to be, wasn't it?
Oh, okay.
But it didn't work. But again, listen, I said I'll say it last week. I'll say this week. The problem with the Han Solo meeting Jabba is him walking over the tail. Doesn't work in any way, shape, or form. What they should have done is have a life-size hologram who's talking to the hand. Then he could have walked through the tail. Lucasfilm, gum, fix that up for me right now, would you? Fine, but yeah, no, that for that very reason, I cut the scene out, and yeah.
Well, I like Jack so I'm glad you actually cut that scene out, because that's one character I actually hate in Star Wars.
Yeah. Well, again, that's kind of like a forgettable.
Hold on. I love Jar Jar. Yeah.
Everyone went silent. Have you seen Baby Jar Jar? Have you seen Baby Jar Jar? Someone did a Baby Jar Jar mock-up.
Hold on. I'm just letting you know that's how much I hate Jabba the Hutt. That Jar Jar is a better character.
But you know, George Lucas realized that the special effects was one of the key elements for Star Wars. So if you look at all three Star Wars that George Lucas was involved with, you look at the first one, obviously it was the trench fight. Look at the second one, was the walkers. He always featured some great visual effects that's never been done. And then the third one was
the whole Hoth thing was that they've always relied on spaceships being in space.
Yeah,
and that like taking that black, making it a white background. That was very smart. Very, very smart.
And then the third one, it was what's those speeders that were going through the forest.
Oh, right.
When I saw a clip from that on TV, I was like, bloody hell, how did they do that?
I saw that in the cinema. I saw Return of the Jedi when that came out.
Yeah. But problem being, you must have seen the Star Wars 4-3, right? Because you saw it on TV, right? So you saw
Star Wars. I saw Star Wars on TV. And then later on, I'd seen Empire on TV much later on, and then went to see Return of the Jedi in the cinema.
Right.
So I was old enough, and you know.
I said you would have seen it in 4:3. Format 4:3 would have been.
Right. Wouldn't have been Scanner-Vision.
Scan and pan.
See this film in widescreen, because I must have seen it the bulk of times in 4:3, just like Problem.
Yeah.
That's funny. I remember now when I saw it, we had a very, I think, what was that? What was before VHS? It was not Betamax. It was like Philips VCR.
Laser disc.
Yeah.
No,
Laserdisc.
so after we saw it in cinema, my dad somehow got a pirate
Beta?
copy of
Oh, the
Star Wars.
reels. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I watched it every morning.
16 mil. 16 mil.
It was like they had was it? No, this must be VHS because it was on one tape. But it was a very early a pirate copy.
Ah.
So a lot of my memory of it is like kind of black and white with a bit of when you pirate that when you do a copy of a copy of a copy, it gets more more
sketchy.
Fine. So they're on the Death Star and they go their separate ways on different missions. They Obi-Wan Kenobi goes to deactivate the tractor beam, while everybody else goes to hang out in the control room for a bit until they find out Princess Leia is there. Darth Vader, for his part, goes, I sense something I haven't sensed for a long time. And there was Han and Luke go, and Luke and Chewie go to rescue Princess Leia. Han being reluctant until Luke says, she's rich. She's very rich. Like, how rich? And that seems to do the trick for him. So
can I just say that the line I've got a bad feeling about this is mentioned twice in this.
Right? Yeah. When they see the moon. Fine. So let's talk about. Let's go up to the trash compactor scene. Do you have any thoughts on anything from in Death Star till the trash compactor scene?
This is one of my favorite parts of the movie. I think it's comical. It's snarky. It's this way you get to see the characters really play off with each other, and it's great. The tension is there. You know something's going to happen here with Obi-Wan and Darth Vader, and this is the core of the movie now.
Right, but you're absolutely right. It's the relationships between first Han and Luke and Chewie, but then when they bring Princess Leia into it, it's that kind of like
that dynamic,
somewhat antagonistic, somewhat friendly, tap dancing dynamic, and it just works so well on so much.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful to watch, and the way that Princess Leia just comes in, it's like, right, I'm taking over. And he doesn't like that, but he's kind of like impressed by her as well at the same time. You can see that friction.
But Han Solo was really funny in this movie as well. We seem to forget that, don't we? Like, what is it? So we're all going to get a lot thinner. I laughed in the cinema when he said that. I thought it was really funny. Yeah. And then Harrison Ford turned into an old grumpy old man, isn't he now?
Yeah, Han Solo as a character is never as good as he is in this film again.
Yeah,
in my opinion, it's a great picture.
Even though I think we can say,
I don't know the "I love you." I know.
there are moments, but
now his ad lib, but allegedly, but he was absolutely the best in this movie. I don't really blame Alden Ehrenreich, is his name, who took on the role. Solo was definitely a failed on many levels. I think he was pretty. If you're going to get somebody to play a young Han Solo,
there's an actor that looks like Harrison Ford.
There's a fan film. There's a fan film with a guy who does a really good Harrison Ford.
Fake Harrison Ford's face. He's still a bloody life. Like you've got technology now, so just fucking use him.
There's an actor that looks like Harrison Ford, and he played Harrison Ford younger in this movie with Live Blakely. Live Blakely was a person that couldn't age, and he played Harrison Ford when he was young, and he looks like Harrison Ford. Christ's sakes, why didn't they get him?
Right.
I throw my hands in the air like I just don't care, obviously. But it boggles the mind.
Is he an impressionist or an actor though?
No, he's an actor.
An actor, but he had the mannerisms, the voice, the look, everything.
Everything.
It was great.
And they hired
a really good fan film.
Yeah, not that. I'm not talking about him. There's an actor that looks like Harrison Ford. He was in a film with Blake Lively. I can't remember what the film was called. Harrison Ford was in it.
That definitely isn't the guy that I've seen.
No,
it's interesting.
Blake couldn't age. So when she met Harrison Ford when he was young in the film. And then they had these flashbacks, and he played Harrison Ford when he was young. Yeah, when he was young,
Google.
Like
I'm looking it up right now. Blake Lively.
That sounds great. Yeah,
Blake Lively. Is that not the name of Yoki Reynolds? Is that Ryan Reynolds?
Yes, it is. She's gorgeous. Wow.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, I like her.
Yeah.
do you have any idea what this is from?
Sorry?
I have no clue what he's talking about, to be honest.
It's a recent
Do you have any
film.
idea what it's from?
What? Yeah, it's a recent film. It's like 5 years ago. It's a recent film.
Okay, I'm going to run through some titles. You can tell me.
Okay.
The rhythm section, A Simple Favor, All I See Is You, The Shallows, Cafe Society.
No.
The Shallows has Blake Lively in it, though, doesn't it?
What that?
That's the one about the shark, isn't it? The Shallows. That's the one about the
No, that's not that one.
Rabbi, I'm sending you a picture of the guy who played Han Solo in this fan film. I'm going to send you the link so you can post it up.
I'm saying.
And if you watch it, it's really, really good. I've just sent you the link. It's on Twitter.
Okay. The Age of Adeline.
That's it. That's the one. That's the one.
Okay. Now click on it. Let's see who's in it.
We can compare the two.
Let's see who's in it playing Harrison Ford then.
Young Harrison Ford.
Harrison Ford is William Jones.
Mm-hmm.
So we're looking for a young William Jones, right?
No, let's see them. Let's see.
Okay, and the film is called Han Solo, a smuggler's. The film is called Han Solo, a smuggler's trade.
Smuggler's Run. Yeah, no,
and the guy is called Jamie Costa.
Well, here we go. Young William Jones is played by Anthony Ingruber.
That's what I was just showing.
Let's have a look at these pictures. 7 images. And oh, here we go. Fine. Yeah, pulling it up. Doesn't look so much like him to me, but it must be he must have had his mannerisms. Like, 1 second. Look at this, and then I'll grab that other one from.
Yeah, I'll put it in the private chat.
Yeah, was it? It's
What's his name?
Anthony Gruber. This guy.
Yeah, yeah, not bad.
But that's not. Yeah, someone's saying that's not a very good picture of him. If he's on, he was. Listen, guys, he was on YouTube.
Forward, for God's sake, you deep fake his face, or you make it.
He was on YouTube, right? He was on YouTube, and he did impression.
And still able, you get him. Simple as that.
He looks more like Harrison Ford. As I said, he was on YouTube and he was firing for the part in the film, and he did a little thing.
I'm just going to Google the guy's name and see what pictures we come up with.
Why is that annoying?
No, look at that picture there. He looks like Harrison Ford, a young Harrison Ford, on the one on the left top, the second to the left.
One?
Yeah, that one. The second. No, on the picture.
Yeah,
that one. Yeah, that one. See, he looks a bit like. It looks more like Harrison Ford than the guy they got in.
The one we were just looking at.
I think he does. Yeah,
he does.
Okay, now look at my one, Jamie Costa. I sent you the link in the private chat. So Jamie Costa from the fan film Han Solo: A Smuggler's Trade. Watch it. He does a really good Harrison.
I've seen it. Yeah. He's got the voice down, definitely.
Oh yeah, and he's got the look.
The point me and Problem Being is making is that they had choices, but they went for this twat that didn't look like him. You know what I mean?
Honestly, I like that actor. I liked him a lot in Hell Caesar. I liked him in TV shows. We will not name here, but
he doesn't look like him, and he doesn't act like Han Solo in that film at all.
But this guy does.
You know, I think it's honestly, if we're going to go to the Solo movie, who knows what was the original intention with that? I would love to see the Lord of Well,
I can tell you because I can't tell you that much because I signed an NDA, but I can tell you that it was chaos. And we were doing when we had the original 2 directors. It was like 22 different shots per scene. It was just the day was just like day by day by day. We were doing the same thing over and over and over again. It was chaos. And Kathleen Kennedy was looking very worried a lot of the time, and quite angsty. I can tell you.
Yeah, what's the story with her? She being fired or what?
Who knows? What?
Should be promoted out of the
don't get fired.
Anyway, we're on the Death Star, right? And they have the fantastic rescue scene of Princess Leia. That I think is probably one of Harrison Ford's best scenes in there. When from that whole moment where, because that's where he's really coming into his own, where he's like, yeah, I'm a smuggler captain. I can cope with all this. I can rescue a princess. That's the sort of thing he can do.
Yeah, that is why he's there. Luke is not that character yet. He's not the swaggering he's not any kind of hero yet, really.
Right. He basically becomes a hero at the end. I'm trying to find it. Do I have any more pictures of him? No, I must have somewhere. Anyway, so and at the same time, Ben Kenobi is hanging off the side of a very good matte painting, so he can turn off the tractor beam. But fate, the fickle finger of fate, is coming for Obi-Wan Kenobi as he has a fateful meeting with his former student, Darth Vader. Now, again, with this in the original, with this stripped off of all the lore of what a Jedi is and their relationship, is just kind of like a fun Republic serial. But I put in the new reimagined scene 38, I think it's called, right? Which really is firstly you have the lightsaber duel is a lot more like in line with the prequels and which are basically cool.
It seemed more natural. I always remember watching this original movie and seeing Alec Guinness hold a lightsaber. He always looked very awkward, and it always looked
because he was old.
Yeah, but still, in this take, it's so completely. It flows a lot better, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. Now, some people have problems.
So no. Run with it. Tell us your why you feel this way. Your thoughts on it.
Well,
nothing is wrong. We're all intrigued to hear it.
Well, as I said off air, this fight scene has always bored the hell out of me. I always found it like this was the main build-up scene to the movie, and to be honest with you, for me, it always felt flat. Even watching it when I got a bit older, this scene always felt flat to me, and it was so disappointing. That's just my opinion. But this reimagined version of it, this scene, even the slow-mo bits, the part where Vader basically picks up his lightsaber and then just throws it, and then it goes across. It just, everything about it was beautiful. It flowed a lot better, in my opinion. He, as I said, Alec Guinness didn't look awkward when he was holding the saber in his hand. It just, the scene for me just felt a little bit better than the original one. And for that,
I think it was just a quantum leap in stuff. Well, firstly, they couldn't do anything in the original movie. They basically could just move very slowly because the special effects requirements of the lightsabers were they couldn't do much. Now they can do a lot more. But in this like reimagined thing that you've got, imagine like the coolest Star Wars video game. You're like, what's that Star Wars video game where you're like throwing Star Destroyers at planets and stuff?
Well, here's the thing, though. This scene has elevated this movie for me, because this has never been really a favorite. Listen, as I said, I'm more of a Trekkie, but I have watched these movies hundreds of times. But this is the first time I've actually probably sat down and watched this movie and actually enjoyed it.
Wow.
So
did Cheryl watch this bit with you?
No, Cheryl didn't watch it. No.
Oh, I'd love to know what she thinks because she's a big Star Wars fan.
Yeah,
so
we were having a conversation while I was watching it because, as I said, Dan said something very interesting. He said while he was watching this, it was sad because he was watching this scene and he wasn't quite sure whether he had either seen it before or because I was thinking there was a couple of scenes. I was asking Cheryl questions while I was watching this. He said, I don't remember this scene. And the scene where Harrison Ford shoots the Greedo, whatever you call him, Greedo, right? But that scene, I know that was they said it was edited out, but I don't remember that. I always remember him shooting that creature. So for me, again, that's another thing that kind of puzzled me about this movie because she was telling me it was not in it. I remember seeing it, so like when I seen it in this cut, I knew that was going to happen, but she said it wasn't in the other, so I don't know, man. There's something weird.
I always said the hand shoots first. I'm always a big one in saying, so that's why I made sure that.
I was delighted to see you'd restored that, Rabbi.
That we can't live without.
Has anybody seen the Disney Plus tweaking of it?
No.
Because Guido says something, I don't know what. He makes some sort of noise before Han shoots him.
Right.
Tuta solo. Is that what he
So
said?
this is like the
No, it wasn't
fourth
something
or
like
fifth
that.
new version. I'm past scary.
You make it geek.
What's
That was perfect. That was like, what?
Do it again. Do it again.
When I was
Fluent.
a kid, it was tuta solo, and then what's that? Dom said it. Well, I can't remember what but that's basically what he says, doesn't he? But yeah, when I was a kid, all the kids around in my estate was quoting lines from Star Wars, from Greedo, from Darth Vader. Do you know what I mean? We were all riding our bikes, quoting lines. Star Wars was the thing to know when you were
That's
a kid.
what pisses me off about this, though. The fact that yous are a little bit older than me on the panel, that yous got to experience this when it was actually out. And I think,
It's extraordinary.
my opinion of this movie would actually change completely if I had been around at the time, being involved in the hype, seeing it all unfold. You know what I mean? That's the thing. I got to see it obviously when it was years out, when I was probably about 6 or 7. Oh no, that's what I mean. So all that hype was gone. Do you know what I mean? So by the time I got to see them, there was no little kids running around with Star Wars t-shirts on or anything like that. Do you know what I mean? So when it comes to that point of view, I'm kind of sad that I wasn't around for that. But listen, as I said, this cut has actually made me a bit of a fan.
You notice he still hasn't offered to let me watch it, Rabbi.
Oh, you can watch it.
No, she hasn't watched it.
Oh my god!
Fight!
Well, you even said to you last night. Oh, she's no gaslighting.
So no, he kept.
See what? See
No,
what?
you're even getting trolled at home.
I hope I watch it again now.
Have you ever watched the machete order?
Oh yeah, she was telling me something.
Machete order is the way to go.
The machete order is the way to go, apparently.
What's the machete order? You watch 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. No, 4, 5, 6, 4, 5, 6.
No, you don't. Oh.
You start with Rogue One, don't you?
You do with. Go on, sorry, Cheryl.
Basically, you can skip episode 1 entirely because it's pointless. You start with 2, but it jumps out to machete order. It'll have, now that they're all in there, it'll tell you the exact order to watch it. It makes for a really fun view that way. I watch it at least once every year, every single episode, and I mix it up sometimes between I do machete and then I do the actual order.
Right. But yeah, Rogue One does come before A New Hope.
The machete order, Rabbi, if I remember correctly, starts with Star Wars, then goes to Empire, then goes to Attack of the Clones. It leaves out Episode 1 completely. It goes to Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, and then Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, that's
Because there's
Okay, well, so those two are like in flashback.
It loses one film entirely and creates a 5.
Listen, if you're gonna lose Phantom Menace,
then
go Phantom Edit. Phantom Edit's like 20 minutes long. It takes the whole Phantom Menace, squishes down to 20 minutes. That's a great 20 minutes. I recommend that.
But that lightsaber fight was amazing.
Yeah,
I want to ask you. So, like, what's your thought on the lightsaber fight?
I want to see that lightsaber scene again. I really
so good.
Look at Rabbi, thank you for that, because seriously, man, I'm not traditionally, but this movie has made me a bit of a fan of this movie. Anyway, I wouldn't watch any other copy, to be quite honest with you. So if you could edit out so yeah. No, I'm serious. I'm not blowing smoke.
No, I know.
I think it's a great piece of
with a smile on my face for that Oscar. I was really excited. I was going, holy shit, sure, here I was. Oh my god, it was so much better. I was like, yes, that's the way this scene should have been.
It's a great piece of choreography. The only thing that is really jarring in it is that it's almost too good for the times of which the film is set. I mean, I think as well. I think as well. The scoring is of the music is also jarring. It's nothing from It's very cut and paste, but it's got a very modern spin on it. I think it's beautiful as it is. I think again, because this was made a couple of years or so ago, the deepfake technology has improved vastly. I'd love to see it re-updated again. I would love to see maybe the original score from the using some elements from the original score rather than sort of more like the prequel score.
Yeah, they did bring in like the Jewel of the Fates, and you hear like You hear dialogue from their battle, and
I don't think it was meant to be put back into the film as is.
I think it was a little bit on the nose, that bit, I thought, but other than that, I really enjoyed it.
This came out
on this.
This came out about.
Saber.
I was going to say this came out about a year ago, if I remember.
Something like that.
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
It was something. I was just blown away when I first saw it for the first time. The only thing that I would say is flowing it in, to go from whatever the music type is in the fight scene, and I love that fight music.
Yeah.
So then to go into the movie music, it just doesn't.
No, it doesn't jar.
It doesn't fit.
Yeah. Same music, exactly, Father Miller. If you had kept the same music at the start during that whole fight, it was amazing because there was a little build up there is where they're both standing on either ends of the corridor basically, and then Vader starts walking up real sin. It's just look seriously.
Oh yeah, that's a great opening shot.
It made so much better. It made the movie far more enjoyable for me. It really did. This scene has always disappointed me, and for once. I was out blown away. This is the way. I know they had limitations back in the 70s. I know they couldn't do this. I'm so glad that they actually were able to do, or you were able to do something like this or whatever, because it's so much better. Seriously, this scene should be put in a clip and put up for everybody to see. Because this is the way.
Listen, everybody watching this, if you haven't seen it, I'm going to put a link in the video notes so you can go and watch it. After you finish watching it, because you're going to want to find out what next week's movie is going to be and what our thoughts are going to be on the rest of it. But Dan, you're the last person I haven't heard from on your
okay. The lightsaber fight. I hear everything that Noel says, and I do understand what he means about watching the film as a child, because later on, as cinema changed, as I'd watched the film like 2 dozen times, and stuff like Jurassic Park had come out, Independence Day, and cinema had changed. Going back and seeing this, the lightsaber fight did sort of stand out a little bit, and obviously, particularly when the prequel started coming out, as being, as you say, perhaps a little underwhelming. I can remember watching this as a child though, and it was anything but.
Absolutely,
it was. I would describe it. It's what's seen as a weakness now, when the original film I'm talking about, not the version the Rabbi has delighted us with, the original version, it's deliberately stagey. And you've got for starting, you've got this stage actor, Alec Guinness there, this great actor.
He was old,
and if I could describe it, the thing that I always saw in it was the fact that Alec Guinness was very old. He was 70, and but Obi-Wan is very, very old. And, at that time, we didn't know really what was underneath Darth Vader's helmet and costume and all the rest of it. So this very, very old man, and seeing the lightsaber as well, because there's very little lightsaber play in this movie, and the fact they're both holding them with both hands, it made you believe when this was all we had,
it was new.
All we knew of lightsabers, it was so new, and it seemed like it needed both hands just to hold these damn things, otherwise they would rip your arms off. And so as the steady feet of Alec Guinness and the fact that he doesn't really move a great deal, it still made you think he was using every ounce of what strength he got left to defend himself for just long enough to hold each blow like that.
I think we have been spoiled.
They all are. We have absolutely been spoiled. So I know that we're going back in time now, and that's a difficult thing to recapture. I do my best with my meager words, but as a child, it was never dull, and it was never an anticlimax. It was always the hub, a hub.
I think the shock of him just giving up in order to become this one with the Force.
I was just going to say, I love that smile that he had right before he gets struck.
Yeah.
Those words are so carefully written.
Because I asked Gerald this. Did Ben come up to die in that scene? When Vader hits him, he actually disappears before the saber actually goes through him.
That's a Star
Wars did he die?
That's a Star Warsy lore thing. But I just want to talk about the version, this new version, scene 38 or whatever it's called, that the Rabbi has inserted into this glorious Rabbi cut. I am usually the kind of person who this would be a step too far for. And and this wasn't the first time I saw it. It's the first time I've seen it in the body of the film. But the first time I kind of wanted to dislike it, but I think it's very well judged And although technology has moved on in the couple of years since it was made, it still stands up quite well because I think it's, for the most part, it's very, very measured and choreographed in the way a film would be. I think perhaps they do. I think they overreach a little, and at times it starts to feel like we're watching a computer game on an Xbox. We're watching somebody play a game. It does drift into that, but it does pull itself back just before it breaks its own spell. It still works mostly very, very well, beautifully judged, I can only imagine that must have been storyboarded quite heavily too. But dropping it back in like that, it fits in. It fits in with George Lucas's vision for the 6. And I'm going to just include that 6-episode saga. When he created the special editions, it sort of fits in there. If we are taking it as one 6-part thing, it does feel like this is much more belonging of the special editions.
Yeah. You know what? When I first watched it, I got the impression that Darth Vader was he didn't want to kill him. He was just fighting him so that he could somehow get information out of him.
He wanted to beat him. He needed to beat him. He didn't necessarily want to kill him. He wanted to beat him.
Yeah, exactly. That's the impression I got. So, but he knows, Darth Vader knows that he's an old man, so he wasn't going full throttle on Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Having said that, maybe I'm talking bollocks there because it has every opportunity.
Yeah, he does.
Obi-Wan gives in and waits. He could have not delivered that final blow. So that's actually.
And when he saw Luke, that's when he decided to give up the ghost, so to speak. And Darth Vader strikes him down, and he's gone. And Darth Vader's wondering why he did that. And then when he turns and he sees Luke as he tries to walk through the door closes. So I think that's where Darth Vader made the connection between the Force and Luke.
I don't think that's true. I think it's more a case of Vader being unable at this point to resist the anger and the ego and all those things that I can do this. I can. I think that's the darkness in him. He's so far gone by this point. Even if Obi-Wan could have been a tactical advantage in some way, delivering him to the Emperor for whatever reason.
It's a good way to die, though. Let's face it. Much better than farting yourself and then dying like in a new film. You know what I mean? Just crazy.
I mean, I remember at the time it was so shocking.
It was.
As a kid, you were like, no, because you love this guy. You've only seen him for a very short time, really. But it felt like such a fatherly figure, like or grandfatherly figure. And it's gone.
And it's because
gutting.
And it's because of what and it's because of what I said earlier on. Because Obi-Wan is so clearly physically much weaker.
Yeah.
In that lightsaber fight, and so you know he doesn't stand a chance, and the inevitability of that when you aren't aware of the law, when you haven't seen
when I saw it as a kid, it never occurred to me that Obi-Wan Kenobi didn't stand a chance. I just of course he's going to win the fight.
He's a good guy, and he's going to pull out something from his hat, and it's all going to be all right.
It never.
As Dan says, right? You were amazed when you were a kid when I first saw this, and it was the lightsabers was the feature of this scene. It wasn't the fight itself; it was the lightsabers. You know, you see these lightsabers as a kid. You go, I want a lightsaber.
No idea how they've done it.
What they're saying here though, is the look that he gives, right? I actually think that he did this deliberately. I actually think he wanted to ascend or whatever it is or disappear because before Luke gone, because Luke was looking at this. So this was like, I think, to be honest, it might be a bit of a stretch. But I think that might have been part of his training.
Yeah.
Also, he knows the princess is there. He knows Luke is there. He's done his part. He sat, but potentially he sat in the desert for a couple of decades by this point.
Yeah, exactly.
This was always his last sort of act. He may have been preparing for it for a very, very long time. And so
the thing I always got a kick out of is Luke is more upset over the death of Obi-Wan than his own aunt and uncle. So I just wonder if that tells you something about his relationship with them.
Will die. He's like he wants to go to Tochi Station and get a power converter, and Uncle's like, no, you got to go and fix up the voice.
His uncle was a bit of a twat.
But that kind of goes back to what you said at the beginning. Like, this is the most turbulent 3 days of his life, and he's only been with Obi-Wan for what, maybe a day?
And whilst you could say that's bad writing, with a more careful eye, I think you could say that what Obi-Wan represents is the fact that Obi-Wan is clearly in possession of so much information that Luke doesn't have. He knew his father. He's just begun to sort of open up the truth of his own origins and find out who his father really was. So Obi-Wan represents that to him too. I think he's mourning and shocked by the loss of that, of being able to reconnect with the part of himself that he knows nothing about as the mortal sort of form. I think there's more going on there than that on different levels that I've only really seen in the last few years, being a little bit older and having children myself and things like that. I don't think I'm being I don't think that's pretentious at all. I think that was genuinely in the script. I think that was intended.
It just goes to show how good an actor Alec Guinness was. I mean, yes, when you think about it, he was only there for 3 days, but you really warm to him quite fast, don't you? As that character.
He does. I mean, and his presence is all the way through the movie, even when he's not in it. He adds like class to the movie. So anyway, they Obi-Wan Kenobi dies, but his body. And he becomes one of the Force, and he says, "Run, Luke, run!" And they make their way off the Death Star, and they were stopped by 2 TIE fighters or 4 TIE fighters, which they valiantly fight off. And Princess Leia is the only one who has the common sense to say no. They let us go, but it doesn't stop her leading them to the Rebel base. So then, with that sets up one of the greatest showdowns, one of the greatest final reels, I think, in cinematic history, where we essentially have the Dam Busters reinvented with just ratcheting up the tension 100-fold. They have to they have a bunch of like 30 ships, I think, 30 small ships, have to fly down a trench and shoot the Death Star at a specific point to start a chain reaction to blow it up. Otherwise, they're all going to die and everything's going to be bad forever. You have valiant wave upon wave try, and they get wiped out. Darth Vader comes out. It is super special TIE fighter, which shows you what a badass he is. He comes out in his super special TIE fighter and stops wave after wave. Luke Skywalker is in the final run. He's with his old college friend, his old buddy Biggs and Wedge. They're on their trench run. Wedge get shot in the engine, and Biggs loses his life to protect Luke. Luke is going to use a targeting computer, but he hears Ben Kenobi say, "No, use the Force, Luke." So he turns off his targeting computer. "What's wrong, Luke? You turned off the computer." "Nothing's wrong." And he fires. He uses the Force, and he blows up the Death Star. And we're not even going to talk about the final scene yet, but we're just going to go up to this point.
You forgot Han Solo.
Oh, wait!
With Han Solo.
Right. I have to.
You're skipping huge part of this movie. Oh yeah.
Sorry.
You're skipping loads of this movie. You're
Yeah.
That's for us to flesh out. That's for us to flesh out.
I'm just trying to move us forward. You insert in whatever bits are missed out. Han Solo, of course, decides to leave. He says, "Look, I got my reward. I don't care about anything, me, because I'm Han Solo and I'm a hard guy and I don't have any feelings." And he goes off and he goes off in his own self. But then he is the one who turns up at the end, saving Luke Skywalker, showing that he's a really big-hearted lug after all. And they save the day. There we go.
Justice for Chewie.
Yeah, Chewie didn't get a medal. He didn't get screwed. Why didn't he get a medal?
What do you want?
Exactly.
Well, we're not up to the medal scene. I'm going to have that as our last bit we're going to talk about. Okay, we're in the trench run. What's it? Let's go through the panel. Father Miller, what's your thoughts?
I can't help thinking the comparisons between this and Family Guy's Blue Harvest, because I'm thinking when they did the Red 5
after this.
The what?
If I had time, I was going to watch that after this, but I didn't have time.
But, you know, it's like Red 5 standing by, Red Fox standing by, Simply Red standing by.
Yeah.
All the different Red October standing by. I like I said, it's been a few years since I've seen it, but it just brought back so much joy to be able to see this final battle, just reliving the childhood and everything.
You know, I think one of the things, like, look at these stills. One of the things that is so ingrained in me, I think, so iconic, and such a wonderful directing choice. I'm not sure we've seen it before. Is look at the speed we see in the background images, right? That really adds so much authenticity. Like we've all had these like model kits, X-wing fighters that I think we could range down.
There's a really good. Someone on YouTube did a really good homemade version of this using cardboard.
Yeah, I've seen it.
It's so good. It's so good, and it's spot on. The way that they filmed it was very similar, and you know they knew the techniques that were used, and they applied it in the smaller scale. Fabulous, and it doesn't look like models. And this is the genius of it. Like every other film prior to this, they look like models, and they didn't get the moving camera in with the scenery and everything. This is like 360 kind of before 360. You know, right. They managed on a flat screen to make it feel like you're actually moving through space. I mean, okay, you got the silly sort of sound effects and things, and there's no way that these X-wings can fly like planes in an atmosphere.
Well, who cares?
Who cares? It's a ballet. Okay, we've gone from a space opera to a space ballet here, and this is beautifully choreographed, beautifully storyboarded to an inch of its life, and it shows. It really shows. Even to this day, it's the standard, really, that people refer to when they do space battles.
I just wanted those toys when I was a kid.
God, did I have them?
Oh my God!
I do miss it. I do miss it.
Yeah, definitely. Let me see. Dan, what are your thoughts?
I was just mulling over I think that for all that I dislike the fact that there's been special edition after special edition, that Lucas was right to go back and update this sequence. As good as the original was, I think it is, of all the changes that were made, this was probably the most, I won't say needed, but the most justified. I think agree. All the things that he puts in, and I'm just talking about the 97 version, certainly, all help the flow of the scene tremendously, all ramp it up that bit more, give us extra perspective and help the scale. I think they balanced the scale that we got in earlier parts of the film. So I really like all of this. I still find it breathlessly exciting. The screaming spaceships, every blast, and it's the World War II movies. It is the Dam Busters and all that sort of thing. Unashamedly, it brings in all that and does it beautifully. I think Mark Hamill's wonderful to watch in it. I think he's doing so much, considering that he's doing all his acting from the chin up. I think it's a delight. All of it's a delight.
Sorry, but I have to be. I was saying this to Cheryl though, Jordan, watching this movie. Mark Hamill got very lucky and did. To be honest with you,
they all did.
Well, Harrison Ford already had a bit of a career before this movie.
No, he didn't. He had nothing.
He was a carpenter. He was a stage carpenter, isn't he? He was cast last minute.
He's been in American Graffiti by this time.
Yeah, but it was
but not an actor, but he was still a carpenter.
Wasn't he in Force? It was Force 10 from Navarone, I think.
He was doing set making.
That was afterwards. Okay.
Yeah, afterwards, yeah.
Apocalypse Now. What year was that? That was 79.
You're talking about tiny parts. He was even in Kung Fu at one stage as a sheriff. Really small part.
He was a set maker.
Yeah, exactly. But he was nowhere. And same thing with Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher. Carrie Fisher had a famous mother. Is that famous mother?
Yeah, Debbie Reynolds.
Yeah, Debbie Reynolds. Yeah, so she was slightly up there.
So, am I the only American on this panel?
Yeah.
I guess so. Yeah.
So, if I mention the show One Day at a Time, does anybody know what I'm referring to?
I know what it is. But my wife's American.
Mark Hamill had a role in that.
Mm.
So One Day at a Time is one of the daytime soaps. If you're not aware of it.
Well, it's prime time, but
they all did, didn't they? They all had small parts. They just weren't big enough, were they?
Right.
I mean, George Lucas deliberately cast people that he knew, and also that were just starting out.
Was the only
look at the part
name.
that Harrison Ford was in compared to the rest of them. I mean, Harrison Ford had a bit of a CV compared to the rest of them, though. He still was a guest starring or a bit starring in good productions. Like, they weren't half-assed productions. Like,
he gave up, though.
And all eyes, Carrie Fisher had made an impact in that film Shampoo. You know, she wasn't the lead in that, but she made a big impact in that.
We never spoke about how gorgeous she looked in this film. I mean, Jesus Christ! When I was a kid, bloody Nora.
No, she was. People saying it to Cheryl though. Do you know what scene I love? The scene where Luke comes in and he's in the stormtrooper gear.
Which he looks incredible.
And she's just lying there, right? And then he's just staring at her because obviously he doesn't know it's his sister yet. But he's then she says so, and then he goes, "Oh no, I'm Luke Skywalker. I'm here to rescue you." And she just jumps up and then out the bloody door. She is beautiful in this movie. But
I mean, the only big name actors in this were Peter Cushing and Alec Guinness, and that was it.
Yeah. Alec Guinness, yeah, you're right, they were.
But you know, Carrie Fisher never had a bra in any of the scenes.
Oh, I noticed, mate.
Very clear. But
quite licentious.
As a kid, you just kind of, wonder.
No, as a kid, I was really looking.
Well, that was the feminist thing back then, wasn't it? So.
It was.
Yeah,
she was strong. She was a very strong character, wasn't she? She was strong. She picked up a gun. She told Han Solo where to go. She was a very strong female character.
I was actually thinking that's one of my iconic
moments. Character, but she didn't do at the expense of others. You know what I mean? Like the strong female characters of today, or so-called strong female characters today, they always take a swipe at their male counterpart. But she was a strong woman, and she did save their asses. But you know what I mean? But they were equal to her. They were all equal in that movie. They all cared for each other. You could tell even by the end of the movie, it was like there was a bond there between them, and you believed it. You know what I mean? Like that scene where Han said, "Well, I've got my reward. I'm fecking off." You kind of knew, even when I thought, you kind of knew that he wasn't going to go because he, you know what I mean? You could see that these two people that he joined up with had changed them. You could see it. There was a change.
You can tell when he said, "May the Force be with you," before Luke went off.
Yeah,
so
that was a lovely little point. I love that bit. Actually.
Because he doesn't believe in the Force, right? So, but yet he said it.
Yeah,
it came out first.
It did a bit. Yeah, it did a bit. But also another thing I love about this saga is that when you come to Empire Strikes Back, the strong female, which is Princess Leia, she was very vulnerable because she was in love with Han, and she wouldn't admit it to herself. And that played out really well in the second one as well, And obviously Han Solo fancied her as well. And it was that dynamic that made the second film work as well. And it all played off the first one.
Because she's quite a strong feminist type, and he's quite a strong masculine type.
Yeah.
Secretly, they really like it, that kind of thing. They like that love fight and play.
I'm not really sure how to... Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, but I mean, that whole thing with the scene where Han Solo is like, may the Force be with you. This is why Chewie should have got a medal, because he was the one who convinced Han that he was wrong. And that's if
right.
it wasn't for Chewie,
you know what?
You're
100% right. He was like,
that is a bunch.
Well, I was gonna say,
why didn't Chewie get a medal though? That is the interesting.
We need to touch on this. This is
the dog.
I've got to be honest, I never cared.
But even dogs get medals.
Fine. If we're moving on to the medal scene, I got another.
I was just gonna say, the strong woman, the big feminist, goes down to the gold bikini in Return of the Jedi.
That's right.
Again. There was a lot of cocaine between Star Wars.
Was it in the Empire?
That's why she was dressed in white to hide all the flakes.
Well, no. Like, she looks fantastic here. pre-cocaine. That's the difference. I mean, again,
I want to put
She was 19, wasn't she, or something?
around that.
Yeah, she's very young. Yes.
I'd like to put.
Was she 19 or something when she did this movie?
Yes, she was barely
Yeah,
out of
she
the
was
teens,
young.
certainly.
Yeah.
But I want to put forward the argument that we should actually not consider this character a feminist character at all. I think that she's, or even use phrases like "strong woman." She's a young woman, a woman. This is a model of what a woman should be. You know,
Exactly.
she's equal to the guys in the film. Just as important, just as capable, just as multifaceted, beautifully played. Yes, but within the content of the fiction, is everything a woman, a female character should be with no prefixes. And,
absolutely, no, you're right.
I'm starting to resent all that bullshit that comes afterwards. And
I think it's because of the bra thing. I think that.
Well, yes, you could say it's a product of its time and that time, but they're equally well crafted. I'm going to stop using words like.
Wait. When you're well crafted, are we talking about the lack of bra thing again?
Well, I think as well, we don't refer to Han Solo or Luke Skywalker as strong, independent men or masculine icons.
This is what relationships between men and women. This is what relationships between men and women are not even should be like. This is what they are actually like.
Yeah.
This
right.
Women, let me tell you now. I'm going to say this on camera now. I know we don't usually talk about politics, but I'll tell you something. Women like blokes to be like Han Solo, and you know, blokes like girls to be like Princess Leia.
Well, that's what I said. That's what I said. That's why they work so well, because she.
I just want to bring your attention to the only two people in Star Wars that didn't have action figures made of them. General
Justice for those two guys
and Donald Sutherland. What the hell's going on? How have I never seen them before?
It
looks like he should be running a kebab shop or something.
Yeah. What?
And the other guy should be fishing.
Services? What the hell? I have never seen those two before.
Services to moustaches everywhere.
Yes, exactly.
Shiny C3PO.
And the beardy guy there with the hat.
Yeah. You know,
and the guy there, did he get one? The one with the beard? Did he get a character?
See that guy with the beard, right? They found someone that actually looked like him for a Rogue One.
Yeah, no, they did.
They found someone that actually looked like
him. Was it Doctor? You know, I got the death sentence in 12 systems.
Yeah.
What's he called again? What's that guy's name?
Can't remember. Oh, we've got to talk about the mixer that they used in Star Wars. The actual TV mixer they used. Did anybody see that? In the Death Star, when they say you may fire when ready.
Oh yeah,
it's a TV freaking mixer because I used to work in TV. When he pulls that lever, it's a TV mixer. What the hell? And even when they redone the film, they didn't replace the TV mixer. They just left it in.
It just looks like a TV mixer because it's space, and because space is infinite. There's going to be. Yeah, exactly.
It's a TV mixer. I've been around them a lot.
Okay, the guys who work inside the Death Star gun bit with where they fire the beam comes through, right?
Yeah.
When they fire. Okay, firstly, there's no freaking railing. They're just standing there. What the hell?
And he's like, it's very close to that. That thing would burn him to shreds.
Yeah.
But then so would the lightsaber. A lightsaber held that close to you would probably give you a lot of burns. We lost Dan.
Where's Dan gone?
Here's the thing about the Death Star. Has anybody never questioned the fact that, like, the Death Star had this vulnerability? Now, I know they did kind of address it in Rogue One, but still, they built this big bloody space station, and it has.
They address it directly in Rogue One.
I know they did.
But if you stick a potato in the exhaust of a car, it's going to blow up. So there's no avoiding it. I mean, it needs to vent. It needs to vent. If it's building up heat in the core, it needs to vent somewhere. I think that's fair enough.
Now, the father who designed the Death Star, He did it deliberately, didn't he? He in Rogue One. It says that he designed it deliberately because they were evil.
Yes.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, I remember that, but I just felt that a bit of a cop out, man.
It is a cop out. It is. I like that movie, but it is a cop out.
So, odd question.
Yeah,
Odd question. Can the Death Star travel at light speed?
I don't know.
It has to.
Yeah, it got different systems very quickly.
It travels at ludicrous speed, I think.
No, good point actually, because we never see the Death Star.
Okay,
It's always moving slowly.
These are questions that should never be asked of Star Wars.
It's a small system. It's a small system.
Doesn't make
Don't let them to answer it because they probably have flying horses or something that push the.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, the
Space Horse and Death Star cars. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fine. So in closing, let's go around the panel and let's get everybody's closing thoughts on Star Wars. Let's start with you, Dan, down there.
Hey, Dan.
This film, I wouldn't go as far as I've never really been on Noel's page with it. I've always been a Star Wars fan after other things,
Right?
but this film is even in cinema terms. Obviously, it's all too obvious what it represents. But to me personally, I love every single frame of this, and for all that I'm sad for what's been done to it.
Yeah.
In the name of cash. No, but sometimes with a genuine creative instinct, and I understood where Lucas was coming from to some extent. It just didn't work. It just didn't. It couldn't have worked. Probably was never ever going to work. But this film, in isolation, and particularly the Rabbi cut, is it's very interesting what you've done and what you've chosen and what you haven't. I meant what I said earlier on. An evening watching Star Wars is never ever wasted. It's enduringly entertaining in every respect. You see different things in it all the time, and that is in spite of its simplicity. It was deliberately simple and evocative and archetypal and all these things. This was carefully considered and measured quantities and qualities. Lucas didn't know. He couldn't have known where it was going to go. I mean, he might have known that the editor had done a good job and that the cast had turned in great, all that sort of thing. But you still don't know whether that sort of perfect storm is going to happen. And I think that perhaps everybody takes Star Wars a little bit for granted, and in time, when the book is closed on cinema history, this is going to be fairly near the top in that sort of list of greatest achievements and milestones in movies, and what it represents in storytelling too. I think that all the things that it borrowed from, that it pulled in from, it's going to sort of, it may be, no, it's not standing on the shoulders of giants at all, because I think it refines everything that it uses, and I think that's why it captured people's imaginations to that extent in a way that, and I don't think it was, the merchandise obviously helped, but it didn't really come until some while afterwards. But you think of over the 10 years between Planet of the Apes and Star Wars coming out, that you can see cinema changing and you can see something happening. And there probably would have always been a film like Star Wars, but the fact is it was this movie, and it deserves you can say what you like about the franchise and the fans. I don't hold with vilifying fans of anything. That's all a byproduct, whatever. This film is absolute gold from start to finish. And sci-fi fan, geek or not, I think you'd have to be a pretty miserable soul not to connect with this film and not to love it, really.
I don't think I can say that. Wow, that's a really good summary. Let me ask, does anybody in the panel have anything to add? Because I think that, honestly...
Yeah, I just wanted to say... Metropolis, Forbidden Planet...
Logan's Run.
Logan's Run was important,
Wizard of Oz, Star Wars.
Yeah,
I think you got landmarks in cinema history, and this is one of the major ones.
I agree.
I think what it did do was not only change cinema forever, but it also forced television to up its game. You know, this was the death really of Doctor Who in many ways as well, and things like that, because the demands now had changed.
I know, I disagree with you on that one.
Well, I think it did because in the 80s, in the late 70s and 80s, it was like, oh fuck, we've been caught with our pants down. We've really got to up our game, but there wasn't money in it because everyone was, what's the point? What's the point?
I mean, that's really the reason John Nathan Turner became the producer, because like it was it Gary Williams, what's it Williams, whatever his name was. He was him, and I think Terrence. Somebody went to the cinema to see Star Wars, and they went like, we can't make Doctor Who. Like what?
10 years after this film, well, just 12 years after this film, it ended, and the reasons were cited by the BBC director at the time.
TV technology called out, but
it's
John
not Star Wars.
His remit was to somehow find a way of updating Doctor Who so it could compete somehow. And yeah, honestly, from when look, most people on the panel are big Doctor Who fans. We know that from the minute he came in, he saw this immediate step up in production, nowhere near Star Wars. But there's an immediate step up.
Well, for me, right, that year, right, changed my life because it wasn't Star Wars that made me want to become a director and a writer and a producer. It was Close Encounters that came out in September of that year, right? And Star Wars and
big year for cinema.
Yeah, Star Wars and Close Encounters was the film that you had to go and see. And I remember seeing Close Encounters and totally blown away by that film, more so than Star Wars. But that's just me. But Star Wars to me is part of my it's part of my childhood, and it will never ever be forgotten in my heart. So I
think the late 70s were a big change.
Cheryl hasn't seen Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Oh my God, I have to teach that woman.
Wait. Maggie, would you recommend the special edition of Close Encounters or the original?
No, the original. The original is the look. I tell you, there was one scene in. I think I've told Dan this already. There's one scene in Close Encounters that made me become a director. Right? Do you want to know what it was?
Yes.
Okay, so it was the scene where Roy Neary's wife had left him, and he was in his house, and he built the Devil's Tower in his living room.
And he mashed potatoes.
And he was on his phone. He was on the phone to his wife, trying to persuade her to come home. And when he was talking, the TV was playing. It's one shot, and you see there's a news report, and you see the Devil's Tower on the TV and in his room. And in my head, I'm going, "Look at the TV, you idiot! There it is, there it is." And then after the film had finished,
what a great scene! What a great scene!
Right? I came out the cinema, right, wondering how could that film touch me in that way, make me think that way, make me panic in that way. And then that's when I realized it wasn't special effects that made the film, it was the direct and the write and the performance. And that's when and I've been poor ever since. So there you go.
Everybody has given me quite an interesting segue into introducing next week's movie.
I just have to say though that the specialized version should be as it is. I like it without all the added CGI stuff.
Yeah,
I can see that there were some improvements that are justified. I get that, but I think on the whole, the original experience from the 1970s should be preserved and should be made more readily available.
That's the only Star Wars I'll ever need.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? I cannot argue with that point of view. Next week on Video Vault. So we spoke today about this incredible feeling of being a child, which watching Star Wars invoked, right? So this movie, it's like Star Wars. It's in my top 5 movies of all time. It's a much more recent.
I was going to say, is it not Carry On Camping then?
Carry On Nursing, I think you'll find it.
Okay.
It deals with something from a child's perspective and does it incredibly well. It's one of the most beautiful and disturbing movies and compelling I've ever seen. There is one barrier to entry though, and if anybody wants to take to skip next week, I would understand. Let me Let me do the big reveal. I will share the movie. It is
Rugby AI.
No, it's not AI.
Huh.
Oh,
I love
Oh, I
this.
love
film.
it.
Never seen it.
This
You've never
film's
seen it?
great.
It's
Never seen it.
That is
beautiful.
worth doing it just so you can see it.
I've been
I've got
waiting
it.
to see
I've
it
got
for
it
a
up
while.
in my collection. It is a great movie.
I've got this on DVD.
Oh, this is an absolute
It's
fantastic
beautiful.
movie.
Wow, I thought most of you wouldn't have seen this movie.
No, I have not seen it.
It is the modern day Wizard of Oz with a dark twist. It's so gorgeous.
Wizard of Oz. So let's go through. So Father Miller, you haven't seen it. It's in
I've not.
Spanish with subtitles. I have a standard def and a high def version which I've uploaded. I would recommend the high def version. It is freaking gorgeous. This movie.
It is.
Problem being, you've seen it. Megagit, you've seen it. Noel, you've seen it. Dan, you have not seen it. Is that correct?
No, I've had it for a long time in my collection. And when it comes to picking a film out to watch, even a fantasy film, as much as I tend to hover over it, but this is a terrible confession, I know, for a movie enthusiast, I fucking hate subtitles, particularly when it, it's one thing if it's a drama where people are talking, but if it's a fantasy film, I want to be looking at the effects. I want to be looking.
I would say genuinely, this is.
I don't want to be reading a fantasy film.
Listen, as a dyslexic person, I completely understand. I find it a massive barrier. But with this film, it was different for me. It managed somehow to keep
Yes,
me going.
there is a dubbed version out there, and I will seek out the dubbed version.
Look, Dan, I'm going to really recommend to you, don't.
No.
I really recommend you don't, because the performances, you don't get that with the dub.
Maybe
subtitles as well. I very rarely just give it a try. Give it the first 20 minutes. If you're not sucked in by then, go find the dub version. But I guarantee you,
that is the reason why I haven't watched it yet.
I had the same problem. But it's worth it. You can do it with this one. Trust me. I had the same worry.
I trust your judgment.
It works. It does work. I mean, it's not distracting at all. It's because it's not laden with dialogue.
I don't know how you get used to it very, very quickly. So anyway, so that is the movie for next week. I'm gonna we've gone late this week. Well, Star Wars. I'm sure we're going to be talking for a long time. So I'm gonna thank everybody on the panel for joining me in this exploration through the original Star Wars. A little trip back to 1977. It is Friday night. It is Friday night here on YouTube where everything's happening. Please go check the video notes because there's going to have links over his channels. Everybody has something good going on this weekend on over the weekend on YouTube. The world is your oyster. So thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to say good night, and the panel on the show will also join me and say have a fantastic weekend, everyone.
May the force be with you.
May the Schwartz be with you.
Yeah!